or whatever. It's even that when I was in Brazil, I don't know how, I have this misfortune of encountering people who tell me interesting but horrifying thing. And I wonder if you, to provoke you, agree with me, but in Brazil, I had an experience which allowed me to imagine a situation, I wonder if you would agree, where I would be ready to kill someone. Simply to kill him. And even in this hypocritical way, I go even a step further. To kill someone who is not himself a murderer, who didn't kill anyone. You know what? When I talked with friends in Brazil who were tortured in the times of military dictatorship and so on, no? They told me that every unit of the secret military police, which were kidnapping leftists, torturing them, the same in Argentina, Chile, and so on, had a doctor who examined the patient and then basically told the torturers, gave the diagnosis, like this guy has a weak heart, torture him in this way, but you can torture him up to this level. What do you want? If you want him to survive, don't do this. If you don't care, do that. What will hurt him most is this. He didn't do anything. He just gave his opinion. But in a way, I wonder if you would agree, ethically, this seems to me even more disgusting than to do the torturing itself. I just said my opinion, it was all correct, I didn't do anything. If I were to be at a coffee or tea with such a guy, and I would tell him, like, look, there is a bird up, he looks up, I put poison into his tea or whatever. Okay, what they told me also in Brazil, it's very interesting. It's how the secret police, of course, people are still up to a point people. They were very traumatized by, nobody, very few people, maybe some top Nazis, maybe Pol Pot of Khmer Rouge can be calm murderers and torturers, that, of course, they needed some kind of a wild religion to survive psychologically. And it's extremely interesting what happened, they told me, that within these circles of secret policemen torturing, arresting, a kind of a wild, spontaneous religion emerged. Christianity didn't work. Too much, help your neighbor, blah, blah. A kind of a pseudo-reinvented New Age Buddhism where the point was precisely, there is no real other, we don't have selves, it's all a game of phenomena, and so on and so on. So, this is, the last problem with Buddhism, and they have great debates here, is they admitted, many honest Buddhists, that we already can, through some chemical means, pills and so on, artificially generate, okay, it's a debate, can we really, but something that resembles to liberation, nirvana. Now, how can we then distinguish between, let's call it, authentic enlightenment, where you worked hard, all the meditating bullshit to come there, or simply taking a pill? It's very problematic, Some of them cheat, I claim, because they introduce an ethical clause. They claim you should work and deserve nirvana. If you do it directly, it doesn't count. Well, sorry, why not? They admit it. It's exactly the result itself. They claim, they admit it. It's indistinguishable. So, you see now where I see the problem. It's a beautiful spiritual attitude, Buddhism. This type of, and I would like to be able, sometimes I think I'm almost there, I'm not sure. But this idea of, that this is something that what Gilles Deleuze, in his best book maybe, The Logic of Sense, describes as the pure momentary event of sense. How reality loses its substantial weight and becomes just a tiny, like a momentary lightning phenomenon, which stands for eternity, the void, and so on. This is why, of course, the poetic form of Buddhism, especially Zen, we all know is the Japanese haiku, Matsuo Basho. You know, the best known one, I give you a vague English translation. Old pond, a frog jumps in, splash. Typical 3 lines. First you have the situation, material, old pond. Then you have the act, a frog jumps in, and then you have what the poem is about, this pure effect, as Deleuze would have said, referring to Stoics, incorporeal. This is just bodiless, pure phenomenon. The problem I claim, now I warn you, to conclude, it doesn't go with me, you have to get a little bit of vulgarity, no, is if you are truly Buddhist, you shouldn't cheat. And by cheating, I mean always taking these innocent, noble cases, you know, like water, pond, splash. Okay, first a vulgar way. What about this? When I was in Japan, I talked with a friend. He agreed with me, and we together composed this haiku, where also we have splash, pure effort. It goes like this. Toilet bowl with stale water, I sit on it, splash, my shit. Sorry, if you are seriously Buddhist, you should say, I have no right to cheat, you know, and say this is not authentic. Why not? If your shit drops it, splash, it can also be a pure phenomenon. Now let's go even further. Are you ready to do this? Let's say you are a murderer. A person is hanging on a rope in front of you, and in a moment of wisdom, you compose this haiku. Fat body wiggling in front of me, the swing of my sword, splash. His blood. You have to go to the end here. I think if you humanize it, no, it should be ethically good, blah, 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 it's not Buddhism. Again, please, again, now really to conclude, don't misunderstand me. I really think that, like, there are only 2 serious ethics in the world. Buddhist and properly reread, not the way it was done, Judeo-Christian ethics. The way I tend more towards Judeo-Christian ethics is, and with this I will conclude, it's a very simple reason. It's an ethic of external traumatic encounter. I think this is the difference, that, you know, Buddhism is like distance, don't be too attached to objects, don't fall. I think our ethics is precisely the ethics of the fall. What we celebrate is precisely what? Let's take falling in love. You know, this is why I really don't like the ideology of Star Wars, where it's all this bullshit, you know. Why did Anakin Skywalker become a bad guy? Because he got too attached to objects, to Natalie Portman and before to her mother and so on. No, I think that's for us a proper spiritual event. Like, what is love? You are in your ordinary shitty life. You may be very happy even, you know, like one night stand, maybe here and there, drinking with friends, blah, blah. Then you meet the one. You literally, I insist on this term, which works only in English and French. Other languages, as far as I know, don't use these terms. Fall, to fall in love. It's a fall. You fall. You are attached. Love is a catastrophe in this sense. Like, you know, all your life turns around this traumatic encounter, and love is a nice example of what Hegel calls this reversal of contingency into necessity. No, love is like, I don't know, you sleep on the street, you enter a store, you see there a girl or a boy, it's love of your lifetime, and retroactively it is as if, you know, this beautiful retroactive teleology of love. All my life was secretly moving towards this moment and so on. And no wonder that today that's the saddest thing about today. It is connected with what I mocked at the beginning as healthy sex. That today we like to avoid this type of falling in love. My friend Alain Badiou told me in France that many dating and marriage agencies refer to this phrase, and incidentally in the United States I also already found some agencies. Namely, the formula that they use is this one. We, marriage dating agency, we will enable you to be in love without the fall. You know, like, none of these are encounters. Just we will tell you, you like these breasts, this type of that, blah, blah, okay, we bring you together. But something is lost here. Precisely what is lost is encounter. Now, as a final compromise, I will, and with this I will end, I will maybe correct myself a little bit. Now that I'm really trying to get more deep into Buddhism. My friend, maybe you know him, he wrote a good book on parallax, the book on Kant and Marx. In one of his recent texts, he found some Japanese minority of Buddhists where they claim that the true nirvana, in the sense of getting over of your false self, it's not withdrawing into you, but it's precisely to fall fully. That we, as far as we stick to ourself, we are not ready fully to fall. So if you reread Buddhism in this way, God knows, maybe something wonderful can happen. And even to end up in a more conciliatory note, even with Tibetan Buddhism, something I found attractive there. Namely, first idea came to me when I heard, do you remember when was this, 10, 15 years ago? That crazy siege of the fundamentalist Waco, Texas. I read, do you know, to terrorize them, to make them break down? You know what music FBI was playing to them? You know those woo-woo, low Buddhist horn songs, no? And then I asked a Tibetan friend of mine, whom I met in India, and he told me that, yes, Buddhists are aware that there is what in Star Wars terminology we would have called the dark side of power. That is, that it's not simply nice nirvana and then we fall into. That, like, already at the level of void, the absolute, something can go terribly wrong. That's what, for example, fascinates me in Tibetan Buddhism. So again, the dialogue is open here. I just wanted to complicate things a little bit. That's all. I'm really grateful for your patience. Then I saw that only 2-3 people left the room, but I hope my police agent out there put their names down, and tomorrow you will be asking who saw them the last time and so on. Thanks very much.